And the game award for Game of the Year goes to...
Man, what a great year 2021 was. Got a lot of work done, a lot of cool stuff came out, and overall it was just really eventful in a good way. Though I feel like I'm forgetting about something. Oh yeah. Shit. Well, I guess since we're on the topic of years, let's talk about how this was the best thing I played in 2021. Another year has come and gone, which means it's time to reflect on some of the video game experiences you've had these past 365 days in order to decide what is the game of the year. Game of the Year is a title that gets thrown around a ton by major video game companies and news outlets. However, it doesn't really mean much in my opinion. While events like the Oscars and Grammys select movies and albums that are generally considered the best in their respective industries, video games are so ever expansive and wildly different that it's difficult to definitively decide what is the best overall Game of the Year. I mean, sure, the Game Awards tries to do that every year, but I'm having a hard time finding the actual awards in all these advertisements. Yo, shit, they got the Muppets? It doesn't help either that the term Game of the Year is also just used as an easy way to repackage a game with all its DLC included, so that definitely lessens the significance of the award in my opinion. However, while the term Game of the Year doesn't really mean much in an official capacity, many still find tons of enjoyment in narrowing down what exactly was the best game they played in the last year. I don't really do that though, because I don't really play a ton of games the year they release. I usually don't have the money to pick up every new video game the day it comes out, so I typically only pick up new games if they really interest me or if the general reception around it is just that good. So to make up for the past 20-ish years of laziness, I thought it would be fun to reflect on what games were generally nominated for Game of the Year and decide what I would personally consider my Games of the Years of years past. The Game of the Year nominees I'll be showing are generally based on what the Game Awards and what most major gaming publications nominated for Game of the Year, while my personal choices are considered the best for a variety of reasons, many of which will definitely piss you off, so just remember that this is all just my opinion. Alright, with all those pesky rules out of the way, let's talk about some games and years, starting with... 2021 was a pretty whatever year for me personally. While there were plenty of quality titles released from Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft, I just didn't get around to experiencing most of them to the point where Miitopia was the only new experience I saw through to the end. I did recently get a couple of games that released this year though, Metroid Dread, WarioWare Get It Together, Super Monkey Ball Banana Mania, and Persona 5 Strikers. However, I haven't really sunk my teeth into most of them yet, so I can't consider them for my Games of the Year just yet. General Game of the Year nominees though were Deathloop, It Takes Two, Metroid Dread, Psychonauts 2, Ratchet & Clank A Rift Apart, and Resident Evil Village. Psychonauts is definitely the one out of this list that I want to play the most, with it being a gorgeous and long-awaited sequel to the original cult classic title. It Takes Two actually ended up winning Game of the Year, which was super cool to see with it being a co-op 3D platformer and whatnot. Deathloop is that game everyone got sick of hearing about for like a year, Resident Evil Village was another really solid first-person Resident Evil game, and Ratchet & Clank helped to provide some much-needed variety to the PS5's lineup. Other than those games, there was Guardians of the Galaxy, Guilty Gear Strive, Returnal, Forza 5, Nier Replicant version Too Many Numbers. A lot of great games came out in 2021. I just haven't played them yet, so I think I'm just going to put this section as a to be determined for now. Despite the world going to shit in 2020, there was actually a lot of good games that I actually played a few of. Nominees were The Last of Us Part 2, Doom Eternal, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Ghost of Tsushima, Hades, and Animal Crossing New Horizons. And out of these, I played Final Fantasy VII and Animal Crossing. I did recently get Ghost of Tsushima, and after only playing it for like an hour, yeah, I could already tell it was going to be something pretty special. Still need to finish it though. I do really want to play Doom Eternal and Hades, but I haven't played Doom 2016 yet, and I just keep forgetting about Hades, that's why I haven't gotten it yet. The Last of Us Part 2 was the long-awaited sequel to The Last of Us, and man, you either love this game unconditionally or act like it broke into your house and killed your uncle. The discourse over this game was insane. I'm not really big into these third-person cinematic adventure types of games, so I'm not in any real rush to play The Last of Us Part 2. Especially due to some of the narrative choices I've heard the story takes. Animal Crossing was a fun little distraction for a month, but I dropped it pretty quickly and haven't really felt the need to pick it back up even with all the new content that's been added. Final Fantasy VII was something that really grew on me over time. During my initial playthrough I didn't think much of it, but after I finished it, I started to reflect on it pretty positively even with some of its warts. Other games that came out this year include Half-Life Alyx, Crash Bandicoot 4, 13 Sentinels, Marvel's Avengers, Oh Jesus, Genshin Impact, oh f***. Overall, there were a lot of good games that came out in 2020, but I think I'm going to go with Final Fantasy VII. Persona 5 Royal is my game of the year for taking one of my favorite games of all time and adding so much new content and quality of life changes. I am not sorry. 2019 was a pretty busy year for me personally, so I didn't get to play a ton of games overall, which is exactly why my dumbass wasted $60 on Borderlands 3. Game of the Year nominees include Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice, Control, Death Stranding, The Outer Worlds, Resident Evil 2, and Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. I've only played Smash Bros. Out of these, however I can't consider it my Game of the Year for 2019, considering it didn't even come out in 2019. You see, Ultimate actually came out in 2018, way too late to be nominated for a ton of that year's awards, so because of that, it doesn't really feel right to have it be this year's Game of the Year. I'm not really interested in most of the other nominees either, outside of Resident Evil 2, which I won't play anyway due to my medical condition, so I'm going to have to pick my own Game of the Year for 2019. Well, there was Borderlands 3, which was just a not as good Borderlands 2 with a way worse story, Kingdom Hearts 3, which I do own, just haven't gotten to yet, and Apex Legends, which I've played a few times, but not enough for me to consider it a Game of the Year contender. So for 2019, I'm going to pick a game that I don't necessarily consider the overall best of the year, but it's one that I still enjoyed immensely. Fire Emblem Three Houses brought the series back to consoles in a big way, whilst also having a great story, pretty good writing, and engaging gameplay to boot. I love the concept of being the school teacher of your units and getting to shape their classes and weapon preferences however you wish, and the three houses of the game's namesake help to provide loads of replayability with its three main story paths. Is it perfect? Of course not. For one, it does look kinda bad even for a Switch game, and it is a little easy on most difficulty settings, but Three Houses was still a very fun Fire Emblem game that I hope plays a big impact on the series moving forward.
Yes!
It's Smash Ultimate. Nominees were God of War, Assassin's Creed Odyssey, Celeste, Spider-Man PS4, Monster Hunter World, and Red Dead Redemption 2. I've yet to play God of War or Red Dead 2, but these were the huge AAA games that were duking it out this year. Assassin's Creed. Out of these nominees, I've played Celeste, Spider-Man, and Monster Hunter World, and all of these games are great for different reasons. Monster Hunter World is a gorgeous action-packed game that I feel is slightly let down by its general gameplay loop of killing monsters to create armor and weapons to kill more monsters, even though that's the entire point. Celeste was the indie darling of the year that I still need to finish sometime, and Spider-Man is honestly my runner-up behind Smash. I love this game so damn much. The swinging is incredible, the story is engaging, and it truly does make you feel like the Dark Souls of video games, or whatever the expression was that all those journalists used to describe this game. But in the end, I have to go with Super Smash Bros. Ultimate just for the sheer insanity of its roster and for being a massive celebration of all things video games. I'll always come back to this game, and it's truly a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for the Smash series and for the industry as a whole. 2017 may go down in history as one of the greatest years for video games of all time. So many incredible games came out this year, with general Game of the Year nominees being Horizon Zero Dawn, Persona 5, PUBG, Super Mario Odyssey, and The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. I've actually played all of these games, at least for a little bit. I've definitely played Horizon the least, but I do own it, and it is one of the better open world games of the last couple of years. Mario Odyssey was another solid 3D Mario platformer, albeit one that had to grow on me over time for me to fully appreciate it. PUBG being nominated was stupid and hilarious considering it was still in early access when it was nominated. Persona 5 was pure JRPG bliss and a complete game changer for the franchise and genre as a whole. And lastly, there was Breath of the Wild, the much anticipated Zelda game that went above and beyond for what you could do in an open world, thus making it the game I'm choosing for my Game of the Year. I was tempted to pick Persona 5 again considering I picked Royal for my 2020 Game of the Year and I thought it would be funny, but realistically I'm probably not going to return to the original Persona 5 unless I decide to platinum it someday. Breath of the Wild, however, is just on a whole other level. It completely revolutionized the open world genre, allowing players to do things that devs never could have dreamed of doing, and it's still frequently talked about and discussed nearly 5 years later. I have to pick it. Even so, there were a ton of amazing games that released this year. Resident Evil 7, Nier Automata, Cuphead, Sonic Mania, Hollow Knight, Xenoblade 2, Gravity Rush 2, A Hat in Time, the Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy. My god, this year was incredible. But in the end, my Game of the Year is Breath of the Wild because, yeah.
And make the bad guys cry like an anime fan on prom night.
Hey, this year sucked. 2016 was a pretty bad year for games, all things considered. I mean, 3 of the most anticipated games of all time were released this year, and they all stink. Nintendo was pretty much out of commission this year working on the Switch, leaving everyone else to just release whatever, with no single game making that much of an impact. Nominees were Overwatch, Doom, Inside, Titanfall 2, Uncharted 4, and wow, I haven't played any of these. Okay, well I have played the demo for Doom and a tiny bit of Uncharted 4, but not enough for me to get a great impression of either of them. As for some stuff I did play, Fire Emblem Fates was an incredibly disappointing follow-up to Awakening with 3 different versions that are all terrible. Ratchet & Clank was a fun time with a pretty boring story due to it being based on a garbage kids movie. And Pokemon Go was a fun little distraction, but it's a mobile game so I don't think it really counts for Game of the Year. I guess if I were to pick a Game of the Year for 2016, I'd say it's probably Stardew Valley. I didn't get sucked into it like a lot of other people did, but it's still an incredibly charming and relaxing game with great characters and beautiful visuals, and it was all made by one guy. That's awesome.
Oh, also, I forgot Enter the Gungeon came out in 2016, and that game is super cool and fun, and you should go play it. Okay, moving on.
Maybe it's the way you're dressed.
2015 was a bit better than 2016, but it was still kind of a whatever year for me personally. We got The Witcher 3, Bloodborne, Fallout 4, Metal Gear Solid 5, and Super Mario Maker, and surprise surprise, I haven't played these either. I do own Bloodborne and MGS5, just haven't gotten to them yet, so for my game of the year, I think I'm going to go with Undertale. This game was unlike anything I had played before, and I really got sucked into it back in 2015, and it still holds up really well today in terms of presentation, sound, gameplay, and story. Some honorable mentions include Splatoon for being a unique and creative shooter for kids, Rocket League for having such a fun gimmick, and Ori and the Blind Forest for being absolutely beautiful. But yeah, I'm picking Undertale. Oops. 2014 was a fairly meaty year all things considered, with a lot of smaller yet incredibly high quality titles. Again though, I haven't played any of the Game of the Year nominees, that being Dragon Age Inquisition, Bayonetta 2, Dark Souls 2, Hearthstone, and Middle-earth Shadow of Mordor. But I did play Mario Kart 8, Persona 4 Arena Ultimax, Ultra Street Fighter 4, Shovel Knight, Tomodachi Life, and Super Smash Bros. For Wii U and 3DS. And it's really between those last three for me, Shovel Knight, Tomodachi Life, and Smash 4. Shovel Knight was a really fun little indie game that continuously got more and more content over the years with new characters, side modes, and main story campaigns. Smash 4 was another incredible Smash Bros. Game that was amazing at the time, but is kind of disappointing nowadays. And lastly, there's Tomodachi Life, a fun little social simulator game that I honestly got way more enjoyment out of than I probably should have. All of these games are very well made, but I think I'm honestly going to pick Tomodachi Life just for how much fun I have with it every single time I pop it back in. God, I really picked this over Smash 4, what is wrong with me?
How about you suck my cock?
Finding Game of the Year nominees from here on is going to be a little bit trickier considering the Game Awards only started being a thing in 2014, but I'll try to do my best. Thankfully, however, 2013 was another huge year for games with a lot of titles duking it out for the title of Game of the Year. The big three this year were The Last of Us, BioShock Infinite, and Grand Theft Auto 5, with Super Mario 3D World and Tomb Raider also being considerations. I own all of these games besides The Last of Us, but I've barely played any of them with an exception to Super Mario 3D World, and it is not my game of the year. 3D World's a good game and all, but it's definitely pretty simplistic compared to a lot of Mario's other outings. Outside of those games, there was Rayman Legends, A Link Between Worlds, Metal Gear Rising, Pikmin 3, Killer Instinct, The Wonderful 101, Animal Crossing New Leaf, the comeback story of the century, Final Fantasy XIV, A Realm Reborn. But I think my game of the year is going to go to Fire Emblem Awakening. This was the first game I played in the franchise, and it just hooked me in so many ways. I love the characters, the story, the presentation, the tactical gameplay. It's all just so good, and I still highly recommend this game as a great starting point for the series. Preceding the incredible year that was 2013 is the incredibly disappointing 2012. Not a lot of games really stand out to me this year. The Game of the Year nominees were Halo 4, Assassin's Creed 3, Dishonored, Journey, Mass Effect 3, and The Walking Dead. I have actually played Halo 4, Assassin's Creed, and Journey, but none of them were that impressive to me as a whole. Borderlands 2 did come out this year, and that game's pretty fun. Xenoblade finally came to the West after the massive Operation Rainfall campaign. Fez is alright. New Super Mario Bros. U and 2, anyone? I think I'm gonna pick Gravity Rush as my game of the year for 2012. I played the remaster of it a couple of months ago, and while it does have a few problems relating to its story and camera control, it's still incredibly fun to shift gravity and fly through the sky, and Kat is just such an endearing and entertaining character. This game is severely underrated, so please go out and try it, especially so Sony can make a third game before my prophesized death in 2034. Please buy it. 2011 was a pretty beefy year all things considered, with games like Batman Arkham City, The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword, Portal 2, Uncharted 3, and Skyrim all duking it out for Game of the Year. Out of those games, I've really only played Skyrim, and it didn't especially hook me when I first played it, so I'll have to look at some other games that came out this year. Super Mario 3D Land justified getting a 3DS with a fun yet simplistic Mario game. Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3 buffed up the original Marvel 3 roster and is now one of the best fighting games ever made. But honestly, I think the two games that mean the most to me from 2011 are Sonic Generations and Minecraft. Sonic Generations was a great celebration of the entire Sonic series up to that point, and is still one of the best 3D Sonic games ever made, while Minecraft completely redefined the gaming industry with a charming and seemingly endless sandbox survival game. I love both of these games immensely, but I think Sonic Generations edges it out for me just barely. While you can pop in either of these games at any point and still have a blast with them, some of Minecraft's newer content doesn't really jive with me personally, while Generations is just simple non-stop fun from beginning to end. Now, if only my original disc still worked, so I wouldn't have to be stuck with a garbage PC port, but what can you do?
Slayer.
Another pretty beefy year for 2010 with games like Red Dead Redemption, God of War 3, Mass Effect 2, Halo Reach, and Super Mario Galaxy 2 releasing. Halo Reach was my proper introduction to the Halo series, and without it, I wouldn't be the massive Halo fan that I am today. But I'm a simple man, and I have to give Game of the Year to the sequel to my favorite game of all time, even if I do still have a few gripes with it. Again, I haven't played any of the other nominees, but I'll start caring about Red Dead Redemption when John Marston starts riding on a Yoshi instead of a regular horse.
Hit him, baby!
For 2009, we got Uncharted 2, Assassin's Creed 2, Batman Arkham Asylum, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, and Left 4 Dead, and I've actually played most of these for once. Assassin's Creed 2 is considered one of the better Assassin's Creed games, though it didn't especially wow me, probably because I played Brotherhood beforehand, which is basically just AC2 again, so its concepts were a little less entertaining because of that. Arkham Asylum is a really fun Batman game, though it can be a little repetitive with its combat, and I never got into the online scene for Modern Warfare 2, but it says a lot about the quality of the title when people still say this is the best Call of Duty game ever made. However, I think I'm picking Uncharted 2 for my game of the year. It's easily the best of Naughty Dog's cinematic action games that tells a great story and actually has fun gameplay to boot. Shout out to my runner-up, the Beatles rock band, though, for making me question its existence for the past 13 years.
Nico, it's Roman. Let's go bowling.
Nominees this year include Grand Theft Auto 4, Fallout 3, Gears of War 2, Little Big Planet, and Metal Gear Solid 5, but I'm picking Super Smash Bros. Brawl for my game of the year because I love sniffing glue and shoving Wiimotes up my ass. Brawl was completely life-changing for me and helped to get me interested in discovering new franchises and learning about video game history as a whole, while still being an incredibly fun experience even today. I love this game to death, and I can't imagine any other game from this year being my game of the year. It means that much to me.
No. That would be your mother.
It's Mario Galaxy. 2007 may be one of the greatest years in gaming of all time, with bangers like BioShock, Halo 3, Mass Effect, and the Orange Box all being considered for Game of the Year. On top of that, we got Persona 3, Modern Warfare, Assassin's Creed, Uncharted, Metroid Prime 3, TF2. My god, this year was insane. But I mean, come on. Mario Galaxy is my favorite game of all time. I have to give Game of the Year to it. For 2006, we got Oblivion, Okami, Gears of War, Guitar Hero 2, but no Wii Sports, so we might as well just start over. Wii Sports was revolutionary and got millions of people to buy a Wii just to experience this one game. Despite being a glorified tech demo, it's still an incredibly fun game to pop in, and it's hard to imagine where Nintendo would be today without it. Plus, you get to beat up Matt in Wii Sports, which you can't do in any other game, so get f***ed Guitar Hero 2.
I'll buy it at a high price.
2005 wasn't as big as 2006 or 7, but it still had a large amount of quality titles. The big one this year was obviously Resident Evil 4, an all-time classic and infinitely replayable game. I haven't played it yet. Alongside that, there was God of War, Call of Duty 2, Fear, World of Warcraft, and Shadow of the Colossus. I haven't played any of these, and as tempted as I am to give the award to something like Mario Kart DS or something, I think my game of the year is the original Star Wars Battlefront 2 released on the PS2. This is an incredibly fun shooter in the Star Wars universe, with maps spanning locations from every movie, modes like Galactic Conquest and an original campaign, and even hero and villain characters which shake up the gameplay and allow you to go all out during matches. Not only that, but it even supported LAN play and still has an active community to this day on the Steam version. I have so much nostalgia for this game, it's just so much fun and completely annihilates the modern EA Battlefront games. It's great.
Your mission is to infiltrate the jungle and capture all of the monkeys.
2004 managed the best 2005 in the quality department with games like Half-Life 2, Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, Burnout 3, Halo 2, and Metal Gear Solid 3. I've only played a little of Halo 2 and MGS3 out of these, so for my game of the year, I'm gonna be a little unconventional and pick Sly 2 Band of Thieves. I adore the Sly Cooper games, and Sly 2 just expanded and enhanced everything from the first game in a major way. 2004 doesn't stop there, however, with Spider-Man 2, the original Star Wars Battlefront, Metroid Zero Mission, Katamari Damacy, and Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door. All incredible games. Compared to 2004, 2003 was all over the place in terms of game releases. Game of the Year nominees were The Legend of Zelda The Wind Waker, Freedom Fighters, SOCOM 2, SSX 3, Tony Hawk's Underground, and Madden 04, which actually ended up winning Game of the Year. Why? Nothing's really speaking to me here besides The Wind Waker, so that's what I'll pick as my Game of the Year, even if it did come out in 2002 in Japan. 2002 is a surprisingly high quality year with games like Grand Theft Auto Vice City, Super Mario Sunshine, Metroid Prime, Splinter Cell, and Morrowind, but I'm gonna be a weirdo and pick Soul Calibur 2 as my game of the year. I adore the Soul Calibur series, and 2 in particular is jam-packed with content and characters, including some console exclusive ones like Spawn, Heihachi, and even Link from The Legend of Zelda. It isn't my most played fighting game ever, but it's still one that I always have fun with nonetheless. Thank God we're here. I've had to say Game of the Year 44 times now, and it got pretty old about 45 times ago. At least my birth year was filled with a ton of bangers like Halo, Combat Evolved, Devil May Cry, Grand Theft Auto 3, Eco, Metal Gear Solid 2, and Super Smash Bros. Melee, on top of other games like Pikmin, Final Fantasy X, Silent Hill 2, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3, SSX Tricky, Conker's Bad Fur Day, Sonic Adventure 2, Capcom vs. SNK 2, my god, what a year. Even so, I think I'm going to have to pick the original Halo as my game of the year. While I really enjoyed games like Devil May Cry, Super Smash Bros. Melee, and CVS 2, Halo just completely modernized the first-person shooter genre and helped to put Microsoft on the map as one of the biggest video game companies of all time. While it has definitely aged visually and somewhat mechanically, it's still very fun to play either for the campaign or multiplayer, and it was the start of one of my favorite shooter franchises of all time. Well, that was a fun way to lose all my credibility, but it was still great to reflect on some of the best years in gaming to decide what I would personally pick for my games of the years over the past 20 years. But with that being said, I think for my New Year's resolution, I'm going to become the game of the year for 2022. I've been preparing this technique for a while, and I think I'm finally ready to show it off.